All right, we're live. How you been?
I'm
Uh,
good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for jumping on the NLF Coaching Podcast. Excited to have Yenny Rodriguez on the podcast today. So, Yenny, I've known you several years now through the OCB Federation that we promote shows in and compete in. So, have had the luxury of getting to know you over the past couple of years through show promotion. Obviously, you promote quite a few shows. I promote one. You've always come up and helped me. So, we've gotten to know each other pretty well. But obviously, our audience might not know who you are. So, give us a little introduction about kind of who you are, what you do, what your day job is, and talk to us a little bit about what you do in the fitness industry.
Okay, yeah. Like you said, my name is Yenny Rodriguez. I am originally from Iceland, um, born and raised there. Moved here back in 2005 when, after marrying a military man, meeting him when he was in Iceland. We lived in England for a while, and then we came here to Florida when he got stationed here in 2005. So it's been over 20 years now that I've been a Floridian. Um, And my day job, I was all my life, like started when I was 17. I became a veterinary technician. I've been working as a veterinary technician. I was full time until I had my first child. Then I kind of dropped down. I was a mom, stay at home mom for a while. I enjoyed that. And then I was just been kind of part time since then. I took a break from veterinary technician job to be just a personal trainer. It fit better with being a mom and being able to take, having a flexible schedule and being able to take care of the small kids and so forth. So that's when I got my personal training certificate back in 2010 and became a trainer and kind of put the veterinary technician job kind of on the shelf for a little bit. Um, Enjoyed being a trainer. That was great. And then, I did miss my first passion of being in the veterinary field. Wanted to be a veterinarian when I was younger, but life didn't kind of pan out that way. But I'm doing the thing that's closest to it. I'm being a technician, and now I specialize. I'm a surgery technician, so I do anesthesia and surgery almost exclusively at a clinic. So I work part time there, and so I'm able to enjoy that with that. Then, of course, my other job is being a promoter, OCB promoter. Um, I've been doing that for 7 years now. Yeah, next month it will be 7 years since I started as OCB promoter, and that's been a journey. I'm up to 4 shows that I promote at the moment. Yeah, and so that keeps me busy. My little side job slash hobby that keeps me busy. Um, but it's fun. I did once I started promoting more shows and having bigger shows. I did put the like coaching and training kind of just to the side. Promoting was, became something that I wanted to focus on more, and having a big team and a lot of clients while promoting a lot of shows, that just started being all kinds of conflict of interest for me. Your athletes, they want to uh, compete in your shows, but that's not always. I'd rather not my athletes be competing in my shows and then me promoting them.
You still there?
Hey, Nate, are you back?
Yep. We lost you for a second, but I can edit that out. You're good. So you were talking about the show's promotion and how you kind of step back from coaching a little bit to focus on the promotion of the shows and growing those.
I don't know if Nate's back. No, I don't see him. So hopefully everybody can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, are you back?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. Yes, there you are.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
so we lost you right when you were talking about the show promotion, how that's kind of taken over more of your focus in the fitness industry over the past few years.
Okay, yeah. So self promotion kind of became more of my focus versus training. So I kind of put the training kind of took the back burner, and I just started focusing on show promotion instead. And I haven't looked back. Really, I've been enjoying it, and I plan on continuing doing just the promotion. Yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Yeah. So I do want to touch up on the show promotion side of things a little bit more, but first I do want to kind of dive into like your background in fitness and kind of what was your driver to get started in the gym in the first place? Because I think everybody's got like a different like origin story of kind of what was their motivation to get into the gym. And based on like conversations we've had, I know you have a really interesting story of kind of what got you started in the gym in the first place that we could talk about.
Yeah, I definitely as we can hear in some of our shows, like we'll hear these stories of people like why they started, and I got one of those. So I was never I was always active when I was younger. I played soccer, but I never really went to the gym to lift. It was more like country strong, kind of worked at a farm, that kind of type of strong. If I went to a gym, because I lived in a small town, we didn't even have a gym. And if I went to a gym, then that was kind of more like I don't even know what I'm doing in here. But I say I was active, played soccer, threw around bales of hay and wrestled sheep and stuff like that. But then in my early 20s, I had a car accident, like very severe car accident, hit another car head on and completely destroyed myself, broke almost every bone in my body. And my jaw in two places, my legs were crumbled, both of them, almost lost one of my legs. And hips were broken in two places, both the wrist, elbow, the finger, rib cage collapsed. And, I was a mess, basically. Spent like a week in a coma, 3 months after that in the hospital bed because my hips were broken, so I couldn't move. Wasn't allowed to move out of the bed. And then finally out of the bed, 6 months after that, I spent just being able to learn how to get back on my feet. I had external fixators, try to hold my legs together, and braces. So I was in a wheelchair for 6 months. And then after that, I'm back on my feet, physical therapy, had to learn how to walk again and just, building back strength. And the people, I really learned then, like how important just having muscle and being strong is. Because getting out of the hospital bed, like after being in a hospital bed for 3 months straight, and for a whole month of that, actually 6 weeks of that, my mouth was wired shut because I had a broken jaw. So all I had was liquid diet, right? Nothing but soups and protein shakes. And so I was like 90 pounds, like barely soaking wet, and 90 pounds in a 5'4" frame is very little. I was skin and bones. So I basically I looked at myself and I was like, this is not healthy at all. And I have no strength to do nothing. So I was like, okay, well, let me do something about it. I had some good friends that were kind of in the bodybuilding community, and they were lifting. One of my good friends was a personal trainer, so he kind of took me under his wing, and with his help and just physical therapy, obviously. But that's such a different physical therapy. Yeah, you're doing exercises, but it's such a different thing than lifting. So we just started strength training and building strength and getting stronger and building muscle, put some meat on those bones, right? And that was just that's how I fell in love with weightlifting. I realized just how much better I felt once I got stronger, and how much better I was able to move. It helped out with my joints just because I had muscles to help protect the joints, right? And that kind of was no turning back from there. Like, no matter how bad I felt, you have injuries like that, you always have residual things going on, pain and whatever. But like, there was always a significant difference. If I took time off from the gym, that I wasn't going to the gym, then I felt it immediately. Versus being in the gym, how much that helped just me staying pain free and mobile and being able to do things like that normal people can do, right? So that's just kind of like, I don't care. Yeah, it might be hard to start, but like once you are in it and starting, it just makes such a huge difference just in daily life of what you're able to do.
Yeah, I think as trainers, we always say that strength training is the fountain of youth, and I mean, you could definitely attest to that.
Yeah, exactly, and it really, really is, and like I've lived it, and I can tell people like I don't care what your excuse is. Like, not only have I lived through having to go through a lot to lift, but I also seen so many amazing stories of people just where the gym kind of help them regain their youth and regain their health. So the importance of just, go 2 or 3 times a week. I don't care. Like, even if it's just that, you don't have to become a bodybuilder, but just go do something, strength train. It's so important. Anything from just mobility to osteoporosis, especially for women. And I'm 50 now. I really have to think about that, right? So like, having done weightlifting in the past, it just makes it just different being healthy there. But that's kind of how I started weightlifting. And then time passes, time goes on. I know people in the weightlifting and bodybuilding world. I started watching, icons from early, like back Monica Brandt was a huge inspiration to me. And like back when fitness and figure were really like the only female categories, is when I was kind of really watching. And like, that's kind of ignited a little kind of, I wonder if I could do it kind of thing. And I was watching, I had some friends that were doing in Iceland at that time, did the fitness competitions and like actual, like I don't know, you probably too young remember, but some people I remember like back when there was couples fitness competitions and they did all these jumps and hoops, like kind of like they still have the fitness in Olympia, but that's kind of where that started. And then the figure category came along, and I was like, well, you don't have to do any crazy exercise stunts. You just have to look good on stage, right? So I was like, I think I can do that. And so then in 2008, when I was kind of thinking like, well, it's going to be 10 years since I stepped out of my wheelchair. Like, how about I try to do a show? And there was this small military only, like for military members and military spouses, like competition that was going to be in Tampa. And when I saw that, I was kind of like, maybe I'll train for that one and I'll try it and I'll see how it just to prove to myself that I can, right? I just wanted to prove to myself that, yes, I can do this. It's just going to be a one-time thing, right? One-time thing. Yeah, exactly. How many people have you heard say that? And then they show up like 3 years later and 10 years later, right? And here I am. 8 years later? No. How many years this took? A lot more than that. 2008 was my first show. Almost 18 years later, and 4 shows into it that I'm promoting. It's quite the jump. But so I got started to training. There was some girl in the gym that she had done a bodybuilding show a long time ago. So she kind of helped me out. She was teaching body pump at the time. I had no idea what I'm doing. But we just, started dieting, did all the wrong things, ate nothing but fish and tilapia, and asparagus and was doing like low reps only to burn fat, like high reps only to burn fat and all that stupid stuff. Like I said, did everything wrong basically. All these things that now that I know better, I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, I think we all have we've all had a phase of bodybuilding where we've gone through that like meathead dieting where you think you have to eat like super plain. I think that's one of the things that has changed so much probably since you started in 2008 to now. It's like so many more people have adapted to a more like intuitive nutrition concepts, and some people
Yeah,
prefer like
exactly.
the macros diet, but there's just so much more information out there now about how you can actually achieve fat loss and get to stage conditioning versus having to eat like tilapia and rice and like really bland
Yeah,
food.
exactly. Like really, because that's what it was. Bodybuilding diet. You have to eat tilapia to thin your skin. And really was the science there. But and you can only have tilapia and rice and broccoli and asparagus. You have to have some asparagus. So that's yeah. I'm so glad. I'm amazed if I still see that around. Unfortunately, that's still around. But there's definitely a lot that I learned since then. But I stepped on stage. I met some amazing people backstage. So some that are plenty that I know still to this time. Um, and um, and I kind of loved it. I was just like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like the challenge of it all, through it all, and just being on stage there. I think I got third out of four girls, like in figure. And this is figure. Okay, this was the last year that they did one piece and two piece in figure. This is so I actually did wore one piece for a round, and then I did a two piece round. So and almost no bling on my suit. So times are definitely very, very different back then.
I didn't even know that that was the thing.
Yeah, no, that was the thing. Um, and bikini wasn't even a thing. It was either did bodybuilding or figure as a female or fitness. So but I said I loved it, and I was kind of like, wow, that was amazing. But then and I was talking to other competitors, and I learned I learned about the wrong things that I did, and then I started researching more, and just kind of looking into things. Social media was not as big back then. It was like Facebook, and that was it.
Mhm.
Uh, so it was definitely not, information was not as readily available as it was, but bodybuilding forums on bodybuilding.com was a thing. And so definitely that's where people got their information from. And I learned that you got to lift heavy to build muscle, and you got to keep lifting heavy no matter what to keep that muscle. So, and you got to eat properly, and you got to eat enough to build muscle. So I learned. So I was like, okay, I'm coming back next year. I'm going to do better. And sure enough, I lifted heavy. I came back way better package. My tent was way worse looking back at it, and my suit was worse. But that's a different story. That's questionable choices on my behalf. But the definitely made improvement there, and just learned a whole bunch, and that just kind of ignited even more of a fire. And like, oh yeah, I want to keep doing this. This is fun. Like I so I got pregnant shortly after my second competition, and that with my second child. So I didn't compete, but I did start. I got my training certification. Started training people just regularly, not for show, because you shouldn't do that. Don't win. No, don't do one show and then start training people for shows. But and I trained. I was a trainer for about 3 years, and then I helped somebody get on stage, like a trained somebody, and went to like as a trainer with some friends to a show in Baltimore. I lived in Baltimore then, and that was my first OCB show that I went to. I wish I could remember the name of it, but I don't. But I know it was in Baltimore back in 2012. So we went to a show there, and that was kind of now. After that, I had some people ask me to help them coach them for a show, and I had a small team of a few girls and a couple of guys here in Florida. After we moved back to Florida, I did some shows and did pretty good. The second person I ever stepped on stage is IFB pro now in women's physique. So I can say that I got her started because I trained her for her first show. But the doing that and coaching, I'm just kind of immersed into the bodybuilding and just in love with all the culture around it. So I decided to take a course and see about about judging. It was being offered by a promoter that was close to me, which is Sly was doing it. So he kind of ended up becoming my mentor. He was him and his business partner back then was they were doing like a judging course, like where they would teach people how to be judges and what to look for and so forth. So I took that course with them, and then I started test judging. My first test judge was Sly, and I started and I judged with NGA for about a year before moving completely over to just OCB. I've done some, so I'm certified both as NGA judge and an OCB judge, and now a USPF judge too. So, but the being in it, it was like the more I got into it, the more I got involved, the more I just wanted to be like, this is awesome. I loved it. It helped me just kind of, I guess the impact about it was strength training was a huge impact for me, just how much it did for me. And then bodybuilding itself, like it helped me kind of step out more and realize how much more I could push myself. Because I would be lifting, but I realized once I started training for bodybuilding that I needed to lift heavier, that I had kind of been holding myself back because I was scared. I was like, well, my legs are going to break again, or my knee won't handle this, or something. So I had that little fear kind of holding me back of how much of my potential, basically. So once I started doing the bodybuilding, that just kind of pushed me to the next level, and I just felt like that gave me so much that I wanted to give back to others. And I wanted to help others kind of just get that feeling and have such a positive experience like I did. So in the back of my mind, I was always kind of like, okay, 5-year plan. I want to promote maybe 10-year plan. On my 10-year plan, I want to maybe promote a show. And then 2 years into this 10-year plan of mine where I'm, just judging and coaching people, I was approached by somebody who was wanting to start a natural bodybuilding federation, and here in the South, it was called One World United. It never amounted to much, but it was around for 3-4 years. But he asked me if I wanted to promote a show, and I was kind of like, well, it's kind of earlier than I had planned, but okay, sure, it's a small one. I'll try it. And that's how my first show, Fire and Ice Classic, was born. Like, right? 2017, I promoted this show, and it went well. It was very small, but I was like, okay, I kind of like this. And just the experience, meeting the athletes, their stories, giving them a good experience just was very rewarding to me. So I was like, okay, I want to keep doing this. And then that's when Sly was like, well, you should come to the OCB. And I was like, all right, I'll think about that. And now the year passed where I was kind of making up my mind, and I didn't switch. But then by 2019, I was like, okay, yes, I'm going to commit to, after doing my research, because I always got to, figure out. I looked into all the different natural organizations, how they did things and everything. And I was like, all right, OCB is the way to go. That's like everything about what they were becoming was something that kind of called to me. And so I was like, all right, let me, talk to them. And after interviewing with the heads of OCB and going through all that's required there, I was new. Now my Fire and Ice Classic was OCB Fire and Ice Classic. And July 2019 was the first time I promoted for OCB. And it went great. Like, I had a better avenue for athletes that came to my shows now, where they could grow, become pros, and so forth. So I never looked back since then. It was just so amazing, and just the community within the OCB between athletes and promoters and the support that we get. That's just not something that I found anywhere else. So no regrets there for sure.
That's awesome. So that's a really cool origin story of kind of how you got into bodybuilding and just some of the opportunities that it created for you. And I think that's like I always tell people like what's so exciting about somebody saying yes to the opportunity or like taking on the challenge of competing for the first time. You just never know like what doors it's going to open for you. Like for you and for myself as well. I think a lot of people that are affiliated pretty heavily in the OCB now, everyone started somewhere just by saying yes to giving competing a try. And you just never know what kind of opportunities it's going to open for you, like what doors, right? Like I never thought like 7 years ago when I started doing my first bodybuilding show that it would lead to me getting into like coaching and promoting and things like that. But it's just saying yes to like opportunities and networking it's so important. And it's such a cool part of the fitness industry. I think the OCB does a great job of like creating such a good community and making people feel valued and want to be more involved. I think that's why the federation's grown so much. And it's like I can say like some of my closest friends I've made through bodybuilding through the OCB. It's just such a cool community.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I tell people like when I have athlete meetings or in the Zoom calls that I do before shows, is that like competing and getting a trophy is great and a pro card and everything, but like the connections that you make backstage, like the connections that you make with other people is, especially if you're somebody who wants to do something in the fitness industry, like that's where the gold is. That's where it is, because you'll make connections that might last a lifetime and that might help propel you somewhere where you were trying to get, so it's so important to value that backstage atmosphere and the people that are there in the trenches with you backstage. And when you're on stage, you're competing, but backstage, you're making friends, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you never know like what saying yes to those opportunities can lead to. I know my first show led me into getting to know the OCB. That's how I met Will and Todd at the Queen City show back in 2019, and then that's how I know all you guys now. It is such a cool network, and like it's exciting to see the growth of it and how much it's impacted people. I think that's definitely what's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's how we met. You came and did my show in Tampa, right?
Yeah, during COVID.
Yeah. Exactly, in 2020, right?
We were at that hotel venue.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be actually this year again. So
yeah, that was one of the only shows I think that went on during COVID, I believe.
Yeah, it was one of the very, very few shows.
Down from Virginia, I was looking on the schedule and said, well, there's not a lot to pick from, but let's go to Tampa.
I know, and that's kind of like how, and that's the whole story in itself too, because that's like 2020. That show had been, and here's the funny story too. Okay, so in 2013, I competed in my first and only OCB show, and that was the Florida West Coast Natural.
Okay.
Then promoted by Lane Norton, right? By Lane, right? He promoted that show, and little did I know that later on, 7 years later, when that show actually ended up changing its name to OCB Tampa. And it was promoted by Paul Revelia for a while. And then by 2019, Paul was kind of busy with his coaching. He's got a huge coaching team and not really focused on. And so he was stepping out of it. And OCB was kind of looking for promoters to take over that show because Tampa is a big market. Mm-hmm. And I had kind of like voiced an interest early in the year when they were talking about like, hey, I wouldn't mind taking that. That was the first only OCB show that I've actually done. And then I just didn't think any more of it. Well, fast forward until August, I'm like a week before my Fire and Ice Classic, and I'm putting on this show here in Panama City during COVID, and we're kind of trying to figure out things are with that, and Marjorie hits me up and she's like, "Hey Jay, are you still interested in promoting that Tampa show?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, there's a lot of interest. Like people are wanting this show to continue on, and there's a lot of interest of people in Tampa. So we need somebody to take it over." And I was like, "All right, I'm in Pea Creek right now for this other show, like for my show, and like let me get back to you next week after I look, because I mean 2020, there was restrictions on everything. All venues has restrictions, hotels. There was, a lot of things extra things that promoters had to be looking out for. So I was like, let me get back to you. And sure enough, as soon as I was done with my Fire and Ice show that weekend, I jumped right into looking into what was available. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And so I had 2.5 months to set up that show for the first time.
Pressure.
Right? A little pressure, but I thrive on it, right? So I did it, and we had 52 competitors that year. And so people showed up during COVID and all, and we had all these things that we had to do, but it was amazing. And I was like, yeah, that's it. This is my show now. So it's kind of I felt like it came full circle, like it being like I did that show back in 2020, the first year that it was, and then now it's my show. So
yeah,
have a little personal connection with it.
Yeah, I think like one of the big takeaways from that is like the impact that show probably had on so many people during a really hard time for a lot of people with mental health and different things. Like COVID those were weird times. Like a lot of people didn't have gym access. A lot of people didn't have work. Like there wasn't a lot for people to look forward to during that time. And I think you being able to put on a show that people could look forward to, like have something to work towards, was like probably monumental for them. And I don't know if you realize that, but that probably made a huge impact on quite a bit of people. I know for myself, it was really great to have something to like shift focus towards during that time. Because my gym I worked at a corporate gym, like Anytime Fitness back in Virginia during that time, and we were shut down. So luckily I had a key to the building, so I could still get in and train, and I was able to like prep for the show. But like outside of that, there was a lot of free time. So it was definitely extremely beneficial for me, and I was extremely grateful for the opportunity to go down and compete in the show. And it was a great experience for me.
Yeah, I'm so glad that, I was so glad to be able to do that, because I actually had me and a friend of mine, we had started co-promoting a show that we were going to start in Alabama, and it was supposed to be end of March. Well, we all know what happened at the end of March. So, right, in 2020. So obviously there was no show, and we ended up, people that were registered, we did we funded them, but then we ended up doing like a virtual kind of like sending pictures, and we sending a little awards that we had kind of prepared. So, but that show was like non-existent and didn't actually start until 2021 because of COVID. So it was like, we're like, oh man, that sucks. And that's why I was like, all right, I got to try to, by August, this should be done. And then November, I was able to put on that such I take that over. I was so glad for that opportunity. So, but that was the start of my show number 2 and 3 in OCB. Like, got OCB Tampa then in 2020, in November 2020, and then Magic City Muscle, which, like I said, didn't start until April 2021 because of COVID. But now suddenly I'm 3 shows deep in promoting. So that's fun times.
Yeah, so I can't. Hats off to you for managing that many shows. I'm curious, like how do you juggle the workload of promoting so many shows, and they always seem to be at such a high level? Like I know your shows have a great reputation; they always get a big turnout. You do a fantastic job marketing. How have you been able to take on more shows and continue to produce at a high quality? Like what's the formula for how you operate that?
Hold on, adrenaline and caffeine? No. No. So support system is huge. We do have a huge support system within the OCB itself. I have a support system with like Sly, who's my mentor, who's promotes here in the Panhandle. Who got me kind of started with OCB and just training and judging and everything. And just people are just so eager to help. And I've made friends in the shows as I'm growing, and it just always amazes me how people are just like, oh my God, I would love to help you out. Can I do this? And just, so I've been able to build kind of a little friendships and communities, so of people being able to help me out. And then obviously having a very, very supportive husband who lets me do whatever I want to. Who just takes on when I started, both the kids were home and they were younger and they had to be taken to school, and no matter where I was traveling to judge or promote or staying up late, taking care of show stuff, and And he would always just take care of the kids and take care of the home and just do whatever you need to do. And I mean, he's not a bodybuilder into bodybuilding at all himself, but he's always been supportive, and he's the one who kind of pushes me when if I'm let down a little bit or don't feel like it or whatever. He's like, you're gonna hate yourself. You better just as well go on. And so he will push me through it, and then he's like, as long as it makes you happy and you don't overwork yourself, I'll support it. And that's what he's always done. So that makes a huge difference when you don't have to worry about things.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. You got to have a good support system, because I don't think people really understand how much goes into the promotion of a show. There's a lot of back end things. So with that being, what would you say to somebody that doesn't really understand like what all goes into show promotion? Like what's really like the big area you see people like maybe like misunderstand about like the whole process of show promotion? Because I think people like they see the day of events and they're like, oh, this looks pretty, like this is smooth. Like if a show is well run, they just kind of assume it's like it's just kind of comes naturally. But what's like the secret to like a well-oiled show, like a smooth operation?
Preparation, like being prepared, having everything prepared beforehand, and anticipating issues that will come along. Of course, when you're starting out, there's issues you don't even realize that are there. But there's a lot of logistics that I feel like athletes don't understand. And I get, like, after every show, I request feedback, like anonymous feedback from athletes. I send out a Google form. And sometimes people will come up with suggestions that I can use, and which I do. But sometimes people will come up with suggestions that logistically are just not possible. And I don't think, I can't think of any at the top of my head right now, but like there are things like, you have to set up, you have to take care of lighting. You have to take care of, not just nowadays live stream. There's photography, there's tanning, there's polygraphing. You have to make sure that there's a hotel available for everybody. You have to make sure that the venue is available. You have to make sure that the venue has gets you access to internet, gets you access to everything that you need. Like the athletes need backstage area. It's not just a stage. So athletes need backstage area too. You need to be able to feed the judges, feed your staff. You need to get judges that are qualified, right? Fortunately, OCB makes that easy for us with their certification, but it's been getting better over the years. You have to make sure that somebody can tablet. You have to make sure to find people that can help you backstage and being able to expedite. And a good expediter makes or breaks the show. Like if you have a good expediter, that's what keeps the show flow going. Like if you have a crappy expediter, then you constantly with an empty stage, or athletes are not showing up on stage in time or in order or whatever. So there's a lot of little things like that people don't think about. Not to mention, you have to make sure you communicate with your athletes. And I over communicate with mine. Like they get multiple emails from me. Then as you know, as somebody was competing in my show, but so you got to communicate, make sure all the athletes know where to go, who to contact, what to book, and so forth. There's definitely, and then not to mention all the paperwork, because you have to have your paperwork in time. You have to have your judges' sheets in order. You have to have your expediter sheets in order. You have to line up all the athletes, right? You have to make sure that you kind of plan out how the day is going to go, especially with the bigger shows. Like, okay, you have this many athletes doing debut bikini. How long is that approximately going to take? You have this many athletes doing novice bikini, and then so forth. So you kind of gotta estimate that, which is always difficult. So there's just a lot of little things in there that I don't think people realize that you have to actually. There's a lot of planning behind. There's also one of the biggest biggest thing that people are like, oh, why don't you have a pro show? And I was like, pro shows are expensive. Like, and I hate to talk about it in the terms of money, because that's not why I do it, or any of us do it.
Sure.
But But the show has to sustain itself, right?
Yeah.
I can't be, I'm not a millionaire. I can't just fork out money for every show, right? So as long as the show sustains itself, I'm happy. And having pros, we do extra for our pros, right? They have, extra goodies. They have extra shirts. They have, then we pay out pro money. So, and people don't realize that that's actually extra expense. And pros don't bring in as many audience to watch because, usually people are like, oh, you've been doing your thing for a while, right? Yeah, I don't need to come watch it. So audience is more, follows the amateurs more. So, and that's another revenue for promoter, right? So you have to, you're spending more money on your pros without getting as much money back, right? Yeah. And that's so like having pro shows. I love it. That's great. I have 2 now, and and I absolutely love it. But that's not. I'm not doing it because I'll make more money of it. So it's a lot that goes into that. Plus, you have to strategically place your pro shows. You can't just willy-nilly put pro shows, whatever. There has to be a logic to it.
Yeah, there's
for it to make sense.
There's like a whole formula to how logistics of all that stuff with the show needs to go, and it's definitely a lot of things to corral and kind of operate. But I definitely hats off to you for putting on some great shows. I know the reputation for them is top notch, and I always have athletes down in Florida that want to do your show, so you've got a great reputation.
Thank you.
I gotta jump into a session, and I know you probably got a lot with your show coming up too. So, but thanks so much for jumping on. Great conversation. We'll have.
I appreciate your having me on. I want to shout out one thing. My new pro show is the Daytona one, so that's the 4th show. So I got to shout that out. And my brand new show in Georgia now in July 18th. So that's coming up. Yeah, that's my newest one. But I appreciate you having me on, and I'll let you get back to your training.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yep. Bye.